Why?
No, you're looking around like you dropped something.
No, I was
doing a whole spiel.
Stuck to my little marker.
Tell me about Border. How great is it?
It's basically, some people had a hatred for Coastline. I don't quite want to call it a hatred for Border, but it is a very attack-heavy map. You cut it in half, especially in that top 4 instantly, it's going to be quite easy to take care of. So, as we see the bans coming through, the Fink gets to be removed, so does the Ying. Those are operators that, or at least one of them, that you do not see to get banned very often. Of course, Finka is very decisive in the current meta, so seeing that removed could be absolutely game-changing. Mira also off the board. And now the big question is, do we see one of our newest operators to the competitive pool removed as well? Is it Azami gone, or will we get a different ban?
It's, I guess, an operator that we've had a good test of. No, Valk, a fair removal on this map. This was a map that actually she sort of painted the idea of nightmares into. The Ying and the Mirror. Ying's had some good pocket play, had some good sort of breath, some good steps put together today. And I was about to say the same about Azami. And instantly, she's on the board in the pockets of Tyrant. Because when she was introduced, or when she was sort of put into the pressure of this, there was conversation of the idea of, okay, she could be massive. She could be huge in the right hands. Those hands are clever at utilizing those sort of keeper barriers. They're going to have tricky little plays and positions.
That's it. Like, you know, it's an architect, and you have a couple of them inside a siege. One of them is Mira, the other one is Castle. To some extent, Aruni also does a little bit of architecture by blocking off some windows and doorways with these serial laser gates. But Azami is the newest one, and maybe the most impactful one, as they are ranged. They're throwing knives. You just toss them wherever you want, and suddenly, like, something appears, a surface appears.
FURIA are attacking first.
They are attacking first.
Okay. So, I was right the first time. Apologies. Well, I mean, now it doesn't really matter. We can see it in front of us, and we'll see it as it rolls out. The start is kitchen. Now, you've got to have an extension a little bit above. You keep some of that security over that hatch and make sure that they cannot have access to the soft floor. Some teams will like to try and take everything with a bit of strong arm and muscle, and some teams will try and just clear a pocket. Usually the direction is towards this, the workshop. But look, Fantasy, this player that every single person in this tournament has eyes on, and is that terrifying start. Hits the beepers, hits the player right behind. Solotov gets one, though, before he's inevitably caught out by a very quick two-pronged push.
So with that, Fantasy also taking small amounts of damage here. It's FURIA that's trying to figure out how exactly this side has been set up by MNM. There's tons of ankle holes, there's verticality everywhere. They just need to be careful. They cannot threat wherever they want without potentially being fired upon by the sides of MNM. And also they use these serial laser gates to make sure they cannot just widen up the gap here as the Nitro comes out. Fantasy takes some more damage, eventually picked up by users though, who went a bit aggressive in the actual archives. With that, it's MNM now that takes the lead.
There it is, a little bit of a slow now. MNM, they've been able to take care of Fantasy, and we get to see what FURIA can build behind it. The second name that's often on the board is Miracle. They're going to see if they can try and find some pressure onto the side of AC. They've got, again, this idea of trying to clear that clarity of space over the top. This is not quite a pocket play. This is the one that's full fat ham. See what you can get. And with those mute jammers stocking a true stop into the side of the fountain, they're going to have to go a little bit wider. This charge catch the castle. I'm not entirely sure. It looked like it did pop it off potentially.
At least we'll make a creation and a rotation there as Miracle's going to be able to find Tyrant. Uses gets picked up as well. Suddenly sell up to Neo and Nello, the two backliners on the side of MNM. Not the dynamic fragging trio. But can they clutch it out? They're known to do so. That is literally the point of them being in that backline. They have that clutch ability whenever it's most necessary. And currently you find themselves on opposite sides of the map, one inside of Archives, the other one inside of the office, looking to support each other in the best way they can.
45 seconds though, and now with the bite back from FURIA, they have their chance to get some of these angles and try and isolate potentially one of the two remaining players. Nello, a little bit further afield, he's got himself drifted right underneath the hatch, waiting for anyone that might try and go for a drop onto that server side, but they're not going to risk it. They know that they have a little bit of time, and they're going to make sure that they have that clarity on where the players are. One is in that room. They know that they can take the drop, the pop round. They have the awareness that the shower is clear. Nello's going to move back over the side. First is Neo's. He swings through. Can't get the second. It's a 2 versus nobody.
I was going to say, dropped the diffuser there, but didn't matter in the end as they were able to find that very final kill. Already very close to the showers corridor there. Knew that the pressure was coming down from that direction. The hatch was about to be dropped, and thus the pressure needed to be put back on by MNM. And now FURIA leading that very first round. MNM, they started it off quite strong, just unable to hold out. FURIA bit back in the middle of that round. We're able to get some rounds, go the other way. Or kills, rather. And that will translate into that first round here on the attack. But attack is what leads on border. Attack is what decides a lot of matches on border. And you shouldn't be surprised if 3 or more rounds will go to the attack on this first half. And of course, I said it before, a 43% win rate for FURIA on the attack in the LATAM scene doesn't shout 3 rounds, but we're playing international now. Things are a little bit different. We are on LAN. You cannot just copy-paste the percentages and expect them to be the same.
It was a good read back in from FURIA. And I know I sort of let into it. I went, hey, there's fantasy, hey, there's miracle, and sometimes it's also that sort of problem with FURIA is people focus on these 2 players. And because of that, they don't have the biggest expectation of what the other 3 can do. And it wasn't directly the other 3, but it was still a build-up away from those superstar names. That is what you've always wanted from FURIA, because we've seen rosters that are top-heavy, fall, trip, and stumble. And they can become so balanced and dangerous for the team that just keep finding themselves on the top stage. Burn it, push through the pressure over onto the side of his army. They're buying themselves some time with them keeper barriers, but the bit of width means they can't really escape. Pre-firing either side, and there's the first. Solitov, once again, gets MNM off to a bit of a start, and no one instantly to bite back. All the pressure is on this. A great play and idea with the buck, but they're so close. He just missed the swing on the Nook. Either side of the breach and the hole. The impact comes through. There's the spray.
No! Tyrants!
It's Fantasy that locks it in. They're going to try and dig themselves all the way through onto site itself. The rotate up beepers just catches them out. Solitov almost slipped by the Deagle there. Has stacked himself up by the bottom of sandwich window. Just missed the head of a player on a rappel there, and FURIA lost another body in a mix of madness. Took CCTV, but that's about it.
Luckily for Tyrant, his teammates were able to rectify the mistake that he made there. I mean, he saw the opportunity, didn't go for it, used the impact, whiffed the shot. Those things happen, but luckily, FURIA went a bit too aggressive at that point. MNM was able to just bite back at the right timing there, and that finds them now in a 2v4 situation, but you cannot count FURIA out yet. Can still win this. They can still turn this around if they play this right, because border is that map where if you have someone in the middle, if you have someone in break, you can cut down the rotations. If you don't make the right choices, you might just be in either a 1v3 or a 1v1 on the actual site. So depending on where FURIA want to go, there is an opportunity for sure.
Heavy hitting rifle on the backside, but what else can you put behind it as you've got a minute? And we said we wanted to see what they would do before, and now we're going to have to see what they can do further as they find themselves battling an even trickier position than the last time. Solitov, he's able to pop up, find the head of Rare. The grenade is very well played, removes Nello from the board, the last player of the previous one. Iana's going to see if they can find one more. Almost does. Users pretty much dead, but pretty much isn't dead.
Still a gun that's firing, and that is still a gun that can go for these headshots to lock out. And the last man standing on FURIA here. Just picked up those 2 kills. Unfortunately, the drone didn't spot out the player that was already looking towards the entry that was eyed upon by one of the FURIA members. This could have been a really close one. Some pre-fires coming through from either side. No connection found by Handy, who's looking to fire back right on through. Somehow survives 2 of these guns. He's being chased down as the time runs out. Finds yet another kill, but not the second one afterward. Uses is going to be able to lock it off for MNM, and that means we are tied 1-1.
Yeah, they had a response. They had a new place they wanted to bring the fight to, and it was more aggressive, and it was Solitov's. And that's the thing about that player. We talked about how powerful the front line of MNM can be. You're looking at some of the fraggers that were the closest to breaking that 100 mark. You're looking at a team that has ups and downs. There's no 2 ways about it. But when they're up, they are up. And they're up against a very tricky opponent who also have superstar gunners. So this is, if anything, the game where you need the magical powers of the Marshmallows and Solitov to be postable on socials.
Yeah, not the Molotovs, but the Solitovs in this case. Let's see if he's going to be able to, well, drag the rest of his team up as well, because currently he's the one that got a lot of kills there. Users trying to follow a little bit there, but the rest still needs to step up. And I guess that kind of whiff we saw on Tyrant there after he used the impact grenade. Got the drop onto the Nuke, not able to win that gunfight. It's unfortunate, but it's something we've seen quite a bit throughout the EUL stage. And that is something we hoped not to see anymore from them throughout this major. But of course, sometimes it pops back up. It doesn't matter if you win the games in the end. And there is still the opportunity to do so. We're only in round number 3 so far. As there's a sandstorm currently appearing on border, so we need to be careful as we thread lightly through it. It is going to be FURIA still on that attack now up towards, I believe that is, again, the towers area.
Okay, FURIA, a response. Let's see if you can keep it for tack. The last time we were here, it was your site, and it seems like a bit of a different drive. They've got Miracle playing that role of the E1D on the far side of Fantasy. No more Nook to try and creep and sneak their way through. Instead, they're going for a little bit more width on this side. Get over the top of the top square and mean that anyone else that tries to rotate out is going to get caught early on. There's a bit of a ping, but they're happy to hold onto it. Tyrant might be the first in his army, but actually backs themselves off. Instead, focuses their way back round towards Armory.
Meantime, FURIA indeed looking to find an entry elsewhere. Through the Prisma is going to be a bit dangerous if you want to play that window. Got to be a bit careful until that runs out. But if they are positioned in that way, you are just going to be finding yourself pinged more often than not if you try and go for gunfights. So let's looking to open up the wall completely there. Unable to do so. Now, FURIA entering from different kind of areas. They, of course, do not need to take top under control if they just manage to get it horizontally.
Oh, here we go. There's a bit of a stun once again. There's a bit more of a reveal on the player that's pulled himself slightly further back. Solotov's ankles suffer, but enough that he can still try and run the rest of the race. 1:20. And they're still buying themselves survival. That's the kind of important part here, because this time, last time round, we've seen, obviously, FURIA take a couple of bodies, take that advantage, and then put the pressure on the site. Miracle just gets the head of Solotov on the swing round. Tyrant responds, and there's STK. 3 different engagements, 6 different players, but finally there's a bit of a crossover as Fantasy finds the wrong end of users there, and wrong for an MNM player. Tyrant, he's waiting for a little bit more of a drift into him, but he does not see Fantasy, who gets that swing down onto the main long corridor itself. SDK, the last one is his, and so is the second FURIA round.
Another cleanup here on this side. FURIA not having anything that MNM is trying to put up there. With those ankle holes basically working in their disadvantage for MNM rather than their advantage. They're meant to slow down the attackers, but they're using them against them as soon as the rotates come through just to deal a lot of damage to whoever is on the other side. And FURIA in that lead, 2-1. Again, they see a gap. Astralis unable to win their game against Elevate. MNM unable to win their game against Elevate. That means that FURIA can just jump into that gap right now and make sure they find themselves with some points. This is interesting graphics we're seeing. Oh, they fixed it by actually destroying the floor.
What?
We could see through the flooring.
Yeah.
Until they fired a shotgun shell through the floor.
So
you see it right now in the archives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like how medics went to follow them. Was like, no, I probably should. It's cool.
If they fire a couple of bullets through, it's fixed.
He's in our area. Lovely medics. And obviously, Red Lake and Stefan, easy are our observers over this. Very, very warm, very tough, very long days. And Solotov, very aggressive. He's waiting on the precipice of greatness, of glory, of Solotov, maybe opening up with a big lead in here. Fantasy on the far end, but they know, and Fantasy has some pocket grenades that he's going to see, but it's actually the pressure. There it is. Miracle on the far side of the stairs. They had a player underneath to draw attention. And they had, yeah, they kind of had Solotov's number.
They almost picked up Tyrant there as well. I was looking for a very long angle through the double door. They just missed his head there. So MNM very lucky to get away with just a single loss there on Solotov. Has been picked up early, and that's quite unfortunate. But the droning game of FURIA is currently on point. They know exactly where every single member of MNM is. And look at that. That is just one of those drones that you probably won't look to. You don't look up generally unless you're getting red pinged, unless you know that you are being seen.
Pre-firing through the soft, hoping to catch somebody, just a bit lucky. The intel tells them that the players obviously pulled up, and Tyrant, he wants to step a little bit closer back in, but FURIA, they're being very thorough with this intel. They know they have all the time in the world. They're a good attacking team, and Border's a good map for attackers. It allows you to build this thoroughfare, this massive web of all the players and the catches. There's one dropped on the hatch. Do they know about that player in Armory? That could be a bit of a reveal a little bit later on in the party. Well, they're probably going to find out. Users is going to do some droning of his own and offer some support onto the player against 90. And you can see now they thread themselves in. Fantasy's gone. Users got the call and gave the destruction himself.
Fantasy just stepped back into that nitro cell there. Miracle now trying to go for a quick response. Actually saw the feet of the Mozzie of Users there, but unable to actually put some bullets towards him. But they know he's around there now, and that means that they will have to put some pressure down these metal staircases, looking to see if they can cut him off somewhere. Now, STK opening up below on the actual main site is going to be making sure that the plant is going to be on the cards, but they do need to find an extra opening on the side of FURIA.
That's it. At this point, with the 4 versus 4, FURIA have gotten that vertical control, and they're making sure that they reinforce any chance of a rotation. The Buck is causing so many problems. But so's Miracle inside the site. Dug his way around right onto the server door. There's a second. There's a bite back from Users, but still, they've got to try and retake territory that's been opened up. Tyrant might be that loose thread. I said they were watching around on the far side. Now as the flashes come round, Rare with the kit is going to go for the hot hop in. Users goes for the rotate round on the back. Tyrant, he's to your left. Doesn't quite get the right moment, was sprinting, and so was the next. FURIA, 3 rounds.
I was going to say, for now, it looks quite good for MNM, and then Miracle's just in the middle of the site getting 2 kills. It's kind of how you can summarize that round.
I saw him going down the stairs. I was like, is he holding?
I was like, is he
upstairs?
And
then I looked away, and then I looked back, and he's inside the site.
I was like, is he upstairs, or is he down in the actual site? Because someone's right next to him. The answer was he was right in the actual site. Finding 2 kills, opening up that area for FURIA to really go for an execute afterwards. And you saw it, as soon as he got those 2 kills, they move in, they try and get that plan down, they make sure the cover is on point, don't even reach the end of that 7 seconds there. So FURIA, well done by them. 3-1 is the current scoreline. Of course, attack is favored here on Border, so keep that in mind.
Funky ground.
Funky grounds, yes. Everywhere.
We'll call that funky ground. Because the funk is here.
But it's able to be fixed by the players itself.
Yeah.
They just don't know that.
The players, obviously,
they don't see this.
FURIA, 3 rounds on their attack on Border. This is always that moment. You said at the very beginning that Border, when it was reintroduced, was sort of highlighted as being that spotted for coastline.
Yeah.
In places, it's a paper-thin map. You go from outside on the safest part in the world to I'm in the site. And we'll see that from good attack teams. Obviously, FURIA are taking this so thoroughly, and I love it. I love the drone game. I love how they're grabbing their intel. They're making sure when they act and react, whether it's a fight right through onto the site itself or the take and the pull onto the players by these peak areas, that it's researched, that it is put together. But things can happen suddenly. So we generally expect attackers to have a little bit more success with how pliable and pliant this map can be.
Now, FURIA is already doing better than they normally do on Border, at least within their LATAM counterparts. So they already have that going for them. But what's more worrying is if you look at the side of MNM, they banned this map 5 out of 9 times in E1. It got banned against them 4 times. They literally haven't played it. And it's like they banned it a lot of the times, more than half the time. Someone, again, in Workshop has no clue.
They're planting.
They're planting in the meantime.
Red's putting the kit down in the meantime. Tucked around on the door, and they don't have the C4 in position. Nello's going to go for it, but it's a little bit too late there. Popped off and doesn't get the player a post plant. They were just tucked around, caught sleeping, and at this point, they're watching for the jump out. They get one, there's the second, both of them. And it's a Fantasy. Second time we've seen MNM do a double this time, and neither of them find success. Well, at this, you're thinking 30 seconds. You're thinking 3 players still remaining, trying to find their way through to what is a very tricky place. There's a shield right on the door. Rare is holding on. They're going to drop the shield, play the game. Miracle's there as well. They've got to try and get the swing round. Miracle puts down the alibi. They go for the spray. There it is. And there is just Tyrant with no time to get it. FURIA 4-1.
And that's going to end with, oh, actually still gets the kill to Rep. Doesn't matter in the end. FURIA really quick there. Just sends in the Monty, sends someone in from below. And now it's like, okay, there is someone in Workshop already. But then no one even knew. But of course, the Sledge being in Workshop, quick going in from the tellers right through the wall to make sure that no Nitro Cell came in from below. Just to make sure they could go for a plant.
Do you know what I love?
What do you love?
I started that round saying,
yes,
this map's paper thin. You can go from the safety of outside to right in the site.
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what they did. And it's not something they've done every single round, but that was them demonstrating why this is such a good attack round. It's like they heard me and went, oh yeah, we'll show the audience at home what Border can be. And that is what Border can be.
Just to emphasize that point, there was only one person really inside of the building.
Yeah.
The Monty was inside for 5 centimeters, and you had the sledge down below, making sure there was no nitro cell. That's literally all the people they sent inside. Of course, afterwards, you had some players going inside the break room just to create some extra angles, but that was it. It's like, you do not need a lot more than that.
It is all you need sometimes, and that's sort of that perfect demonstration of why this has generally fallen into the favor of attackers. A 4-2 isn't the end of the world. A 5-1 could spell some trouble for MNM on the other half, because sometimes they can be a bit cautious, sometimes they can be entirely thrown in, but FURIA are a team that build energy, they build that momentum, and they love to have it thrive across a map that offers them some of it back. Here, the last chance, the last little bit of an attack for them to try and put it together. There is obviously the throw out outside from Solotov. The fake lady is able to get a bit of a removal.
It's definitely going to be a bit annoying if a Prisma is out there. It's not really something you can easily deal with. You have to move over. Neo will be able to find that very first onto SDK, so that is going to be the buck removed from play. Going to be able to open up everything, but instead Fantasy just moves in, gets traded out. But Miracle is in a good position as well to try and go for the fight. They're just feeding bodies to the sides of FURIA right now, and yes, they are out there. Yes, they're playing with the LMGs. You need to be damn sure if you want to be outgunning them.
That's it, the loss of Neo there, but the removal of Fantasy and SDK. You still have a lot of firepower on the side of FURIA, but it puts them in a trickier situation because those that have been really gunning on the side of MNM are still standing. Solotov, he's stacked up, he's waiting for this player to drift into an angle he can try and put some pressure on, but once again, the drones, they are rolling from the side of FURIA. That irritating outside alibi Prisma still causing some attention. It's just something that is an irritant, and it's something that MNM are happy to leave there. So many keeper barriers stacked up into this firing range down towards the east stairs.
It's been quite a bit of a fortress out there inside of CCTV. You don't think you're going to be taken that easily unless you just go for the LMG fire. Get one kill. Suddenly there's only a player that is now falling back. Gets another. Miracle turns it around here for the side of FURIA. Now it's a 3-on-2 situation. Both these players in and around the site. One in the fountain uses is on that bit of a semi-roam, semi-hide, but he's the last man standing now. FURIA are really turning this around. He needs to head back towards the side, but he's already being circled around as Andy gets that final kill. And FURIA, you know what? They just lock it off with a 5-1.
I mean, there it is. That round was so well put together. That's everything I've loved about FURIA's approach on this map so far. Not counting the only round where we really had a kick go down with the paced one. But when things are going away from them, they get their heads back around the game. They sort of get themselves droned out, fleshed out, and they make sure that all of the steps are measured and everything is sort of put ahead of them. There's a famous Tim, Ace of Pyrite Lever, saying about this. They don't know when they're beat.
No, they're definitely not.
And it works two ways. Because when they are beating, they still treat it like it's 0-0. They still treat it like it is that same ferocity.
And that's the beauty of it, right? Like, you do not really want to slow down now you're in 5-1. Just continue. Just continue at that same pace. Make sure you make life hard for MNM. And I know I'm a European caster and I should have a bit of bias, and of course, I like the boys in MNM, but it's like FURIA just for now seems a lot better on this map, and you don't want to see them slow down. You want to see them continue at this pace and make it difficult for MNM. However, if the repicks come through and they don't change in the next 2 seconds, we're up for a very potential intriguing push.
An intriguing push.
Intriguing. I can't use interesting because then Milos
will be fuming.
Exactly. So we have the Monty, we have the Glassy, we have the Line.
We do.
Are we going to see a similar kind of push compared to what FURIA did? Just smokes out, go in for the plant, have the glass cover over shoulder.
Do you know who I love on this one? Ascends on AC window, but Fantasy almost suffers first of all. There is now the players stacked up. Some attention will be brought towards the far side. Hey, look, it's a clash all the way currently on east stairs. The Monster's going for the slow creep. pops it. There's the E1D to buy themselves. There's the smoke cover, and there's a Monty going actually deep, all the way into the opposite corner, hoping to move away from the C4. There it is. It hits the wrong part. Monty's going to be able to pull off this plant because he dug deep, and now he's just going to put that shield down and sort of say, hey, here's a wonderful place to play. Sandwich window, swing away. Doesn't quite get it, though. Miracle is able to lock it in. The Glass on the far side is just holding on. There's a clash. That might cause a bit of a problem here. They're now going to see if they can just hold on. Tyrant gets the 1 kill over the far side. They're just going to keep putting a little bit of a zap. Nello gets caught out. Miracle's going for the defuse.
No way that they do this.
Out. They're holding it on. Rare has all the cover. FURIA has themselves sitting on map point.
I was going to say FURIA, they played this like kind of party at the start. They dropped down the hatches, they used these impacts, I get it. They tried to stop that plan, but instead they removed themselves from the fight, and then instead they just go for the retake. And it works out. They win these gunfights left, right, and center whilst they go for a defuse under the cover of the clash, and somehow they get away with it. And 6-1, right now on the board, MNM with a tactical timeout will need some time to talk.
I mean, that they do. That is just
a wonderful retake is all we can really say. It's a wonderful
retake. The clash was the difference maker.
Yeah.
As soon as she rode up, it became a problem. It became this big thing because the game plan was they can't get to this unless they have a wall that walks.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the only thing they really had. So, lack of droning.
Oh, there's a nosebleed.
There is a nosebleed. Those happen. Injuries in esports.
Esports is dangerous.
It is.
Kids, don't try this at home. No, leave it to the professional athletes.
Like we don't have to show it. Don't worry.
Let's give the man some dignity. And look at Nello, Croatian sensation.
One of the Croatian sensations. We have two.
Yeah, the other one is observing this game.
Currently, yes. Coincidence?
And then we have the sensations opposite. And to be honest, all of them. This game, I know we've talked about the power of FURIA. I know we've had expectations. And there's this sort of story about FURIA is that they're so consistent getting to majors. They're always on the big boards. I think they're one of the only teams, if not the only team that's been at all of them, coming into this event.
Could definitely be. Let me just go for a quick check. Got it all written down.
You can run those numbers. I believe it was something that we discussed in our meeting.
I definitely know we've been talking about it. And if I go back, I see Charlotte Major, I see the Sweden Major, I see the Mexico Major. So yeah, we have been seeing those. Yes, the SIs as well. But that's what we said as well. They're always that team that gets there, and they always barely get there, and then that's it. It's like but they don't get any further.
But they're a team that's been together a long time. They're a team that has had a lot of growth, and they're a team that, to be fair, you know, when you've been the bridesmaid 6 times, and you're surrounded.
At some point, it's time to get married.
At some point, it's time to get married. And not every other team here can say that they've been at everyone. I, off the top of my head, cannot remember another team that's been at all of those majors, as well as SIs, as consistently as FURIA.
I'm trying to remember, but I think almost every single one at least missed a major on SI.
Yeah.
And like the first thing you think about is like actual championships, but it's like TSM isn't even here.
TSM? Not here. Dark
NIP, they missed some as well. Dark Zero aren't here. Astralis is only like really playing well ever since Charlotte.
MNM, obviously they're at SI, but they weren't at Charlotte.
Yeah. I mean, G2 was at Charlotte.
G2...
So it's like I didn't expect G2 to be at this many majors, but if you look back, they were at quite a lot of majors as well. But I don't know if it's every single one. No, it wasn't SI. They were the ones that just missed out. So yeah, it seems like I
think the nurse is
leaving.
The doctors.
The nosebleed has been resolved, and we are back underway in a couple of seconds.
Hopefully soon. Did you know on German public transportation,
you need to wear masks still?
Well, you can also. My story was you can register any thing before your name. So I'm Professor Doctor.
I did. You did show me that. Yes.
Yeah, I did. So if anyone's going to the Charlotte Major and you need to use the public transport,
Berlin Major.
Yeah, Berlin Major.
Yeah, you said Charlotte.
I did. Yeah. I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
If anyone's coming to the Berlin Major and you can be a Professor Doctor as well if you like. You can just be Dr. Doctor or Professor Doctor. These are options that you're allowed to do.
Professor Doctor Professor?
I don't know. I could only see Professor Doctor Doctor.
Okay.
We'll be back in. We're just obviously making sure that everybody is okay.
There's no one nosebleeds.
And there's no one nosebleeds. And that we're ready to have a fight. And FURIA, well, they've had a heck of a fight throughout this game so far.
Yep.
I mean, if anything, that exemplifies it. They never know when they're beat. That was a fantastic retake. If you missed it, the clash rolling in was that sort of slow-mo black and white moment of, oh no, like for the attackers.
It was at this moment they knew.
Like the Monty having to drop the shield, the Glaz getting caught out on the swing as well. They had everything for a good plan, which could have worked if only the clash.
That was the one factor that they didn't take into account or thought they might have been able to deal with. And again, I'm going to say it, as soon as the push came through, the smoke canisters popped, the Monty went in deep. The Izami that was close, they could have actually gone for a fight, could have walked through the smoke and done something, dropped down a hatch, used 2 impacts into 2 random spots, wasn't able to get any connection. And at that moment, it was like, this is going to be a retake. And, you know, they used that clash. They used it very well, perfectly, you can say. Didn't move at all, made sure there was a safe space for one of his friendly defenders to sit in and go for a defuse, whilst also being able to look out for the Monty, see if there was nothing weird happening over there. It's just a perfect play from FURIA.
Do you know what one of the cool things is about the setup that people at home don't get to see? Is how the players are all on different levels.
Oh,
like above and below each other. From our perspective, it's really cool. Because you sort of look and you see all 4 teams, like, towered.
Especially if we, like, open the curtain.
Yeah, we can get a great... We're on the other side of a very big room to them to make sure that they obviously can't hear us and they can't hear each other. But it's a very cool visual, the way they're sort of locked down. You can, like, you go down the stairs and you're just like, ooh, cool. It looks like we're back in.
We are back in.
High fives all around. We should do one. Nice. Now we are also part of the game. 6-1. FURIA, 1 round away from a very quick 3 points. Obviously, they've doubled down. MNM, they're 1 round away from nothing over 2 games.
Yeah, and, you know, it is just unfortunate. They played against Elevate, and I thought the game against Elevate, you know, 7-4, 7-5 was going to be the scoreline. Eventually, DAMWON succeeded. But I thought that, you know, it was going to be MNM and Elevate fighting for that 2nd spot in the group. And FURIA potentially backing out of that one. But with Astralis getting 0 points so far, MNM getting 0 points so far, we might just get Elevate and FURIA to be the teams that lead the group here today. Because FURIA is still having to play Astralis.
Attackers are heading out.
I think that's it, obviously. You've still got big challenges ahead. You've still got big teams. And Astralis are wanting MNM to drop points in this. They're wanting to try and find themselves suddenly looking at not an easier fight, but a more competitive lean-in onto this aggression, and they need that team that's suffered today to suffer a little bit more so they don't find themselves at the bottom of the board, and then they want to beat FURIA because then suddenly they're in a neck-and-neck race for 2nd rather than what could otherwise be a bit more of a takeaway. Sprays through, but not quite the catch onto the player. Fantasy pulls himself to a little bit more safety and then dips round to the side of 90, looks down long and keeping himself active on his defense.
It's so funny, this CCTV hold is basically as old as when Border actually started to come through. It's just being enhanced a little bit as FURIA just executes MNM right here, finds 3 kills in quick succession. It's only up to Solitov, and he gets taken out. A flawless half to come through just to end it all. MNM will be ending the day with 0 points as FURIA on the defense just decide enough is enough. It is time to prepare for the next game. Have a good night rest, MNM.
I said this map can go from all to nothing in the blink of an eye, and FURIA proved it on both their attack and then on their defense. Well, we're going to have to watch that one back to get the full taste. We'll have a quick break before we're back with the desk to break that game down.
Mexico, Stockholm. I have so many memories. I had a front row seat to see Goga qualify G2 Esports for the final after an unbelievable performance.
On the best team in the world.
I was there in Tokoname, where Nello won a legendary round all by himself.
In the midst of a crossfire, gets one on the Diesel and a second one on Amaranth. Oh, are you kidding me? The 1v4!
I was standing in that madding crowd at Montreal, stunned by the triumph of Space Station Gaming.
But it's home once again!
I was thrilled when Ninjas in Pyjamas got its revenge in Paris.
Not bad.
Alamau in a 1v3 here. He makes the swing, he finds the headshot, and not just one.
I witnessed LMAO's demonstration in Mexico when he led Team 1 to a consecration against all odds. I was fortunate to see DAMWON Kia making history in front of me in Yavle.
First Korean team who are progressing to the semi-finals!
But did I tell you I even saw as a nobody TSM FTX became the new world champions in Stockholm?
They have a rematch.
This is it. This is my major story. And as an official hardware partner of Rainbow Six Esports, I feel blessed to witness them for such a long time.
Welcome back here to our lovely little corner at the Berlin Major post. A little bit of a shell shock there. 7-1. MNM brushed aside in some rounds in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, for sure. We saw some quick rushes coming down from FURIA. Also the attempt of MNM to try and do the exact same. She said the retake ability of FURIA was too strong here today on Border, as they started off with a 5-1 lead on that very first half. And to be honest, on Border, it's not too strange to see sort of that sort of score lines. 4-2, 5-1 is something you expect. But after that FURIA, they didn't stop. They just put down that trigger even harder and managed to make sure they were victorious.
It was the big thing that I guess we wanted to see from FURIA, which was a full control of the game. Sometimes it's a little bit scrappy, sometimes it's a little bit sparky, but that was a full-fledged fire that they were able to bring to the side of Border. And MNM, a rough day, 2 games, no points, is what they find themselves sitting at the bottom of the board.
Yeah, and with that, FURIA now finds themselves into the second place as they take their spot behind Elevate, who are on 6 points. They beat Astralis, they beat MNM before today. Now FURIA with 3 points right behind them in that second place, currently in a spot to go to playoffs, but of course they need to keep this momentum going for the next 5 games. So that is something to keep in mind. It's far from over yet. There's still, for these other 2 teams, a lot more games to go at as well.
Well, there is Group A, obviously, Ninjas in Pyjamas and Rogue, who are currently playing versus XSET. That game is still in motion on the other stream between Rogue and XSET, with DAMWON Kia, who are waiting on the bottom of the board. NIP will play XSET next. That will be the game just after. But obviously, with the pace of ours, the A-stream game is still ongoing. So once again, that's the middle 2 teams, Rogue versus XSET, for Rogue to see if they can try and push ahead based on their previous result.
And of course, points are always going to be the most important, as that decides these places first. After that, round differential comes in. So that is what you need to keep in mind. For Group B, we have FaZe and G2 currently both on 3 points each. Sandbox lost both those games out. And Soniqs still yet to play.
Yes, they will be playing a little bit later. I think they're, they're not currently playing. They'll play FaZe once, they'll play G2 once, just to make sure that everybody plays twice. Soniqs versus G2. I wonder if there's anything going into that game.
If there's any heat in that game, yes.
Going into that game, I guess time is a sort of tell there. Group C, and we have, obviously, Gaimin Gladiators getting so close, putting the pressure on. They almost swung in with a heavy start there. OXG take a loss, and Wolves, they almost take the full 6. Not quite that level of elevate, but enough to make sure that they've still made that statement.
I mean, they did manage to take out OXG in full time, which is also very important. But if we then move on to our current group that we are active in, it is Elevate leading the charge with 6 points. The team from APAC that came in swinging, and now FURIA trying to chase them down from LATAM with a single win so far, but a 7-1 scoreline.
I think that's it. That's a big part right now. Obviously, if they have another similar performance, they're top of the board, no real question asked. But still, that does ask, actually, or raise a couple of questions about the 2 teams at the bottom. And the next one is the one that has a lot of focus on Astralis. Obviously, they've probably paid keen attention towards the players.
They definitely have. Astralis is, of course, that team that, you know, people expect to be coming over towards the playoffs, expect to potentially even make it to another finals. But before we head too much into that one, let's quickly recap this last game. Only round 2, won by MNM, as FURIA was able to win the other 7. Miracle taking the lead of his team with 150 EPS.
It was a name that we sort of had as a highlight, but for me, all of them were putting the pressure in. All of them leading the game with a positive KD. When you're sitting on a 7-1, it is that sort of devastating bit of momentum, and they're going to see if they can keep trying to ride that. MNM, as I said, it's been a rough day at the office, but that's the thing about this format. It's a double round robin. These teams will all play each other again throughout the 3 days. You can brush off a bad day and still come back to the top of the group. It's not easy, but it's possible. And possible is the most important thing.
As long as there is an opportunity, there is hope. And hope is very powerful, as we all know. But yes, MNM, unfortunately, 0-2 for today. Now, let's see whether or not FURIA is also going to be getting the 2-0 compared to Elevate.
That's it. FURIA, obviously, they're double down. They're back-to-back, and they're next going to be playing Astralis. We're going to be throwing to a break. Keep your eyes on the A game that I believe is still ongoing, and then come back to us to see if Latin America can conquer America.